beautiful. It's your husband. Still love saying that. Hey, look, when I got up, you weren't there, so I just ran up to the store to grab some things. You want anything? Like a drink or maybe some whipped cream for later?
We are talking about the home invasion movie SACREN, and this one is directed and co-written by Alexander Henderson in his first feature-length directorial debut. He's done a few shorts before, but here he is in his first feature-length movie. And this one stars Kelsi, Umeko and Curtis McGann. Now, this movie on the surface is extremely similar to the movie The Strangers. So what we have a couple who are living in this kind of remote kind of house in the middle of the woods somewhere. Not quite, right out in the middle of the woods, but fairly kind of isolated to a certain degree. Now, the female has just suffered a miscarriage. So she's obviously very kind of upset, as is obviously the husband. And there is a knock at the door, and there is a strange masked character asking to borrow some sugar, and of course this freaks them out, but he appears not to be alone and isn't finished for the night. So what will happen? You have to watch the movie to find out. So let's discuss. First of all, what worked with this movie. Now, I actually think the acting was fairly good. Now, put a little asterisk in that, because I feel people are going, I don't think so. But I feel the acting by the actual actors is fairly solid. However, I feel the writing is not, so we'll come back to that. But the actual performances, I have got to say, I thought were pretty good. Obviously when dealing with kind of like something like, a miscarriage, you'd expect a certain emotional performance. And I've got to say, I thought they did a good job here. Also, the kind of our antagonists here are suitably of an unknown quantity. We don't really kind of know what they want. And if you're looking at kind of like I haven't seen the second Strangers film, so I don't know if their origin was explained, but certainly in the first Strangers movie, again, you didn't really know the kind of the MO, what the kind of what they wanted really, and that's very much the same with this one. So it gives them a certain creepy vibe, and you don't really know what they want or what their kind of their end game is ultimately. And the masks that they have chosen for these sort of characters do look kind of suitably scary as well. And they do seem very sadistic. There's a scene here where they are torturing a character, and it's pretty sadistic. It's not particularly graphic on scene, but nonetheless, the idea there is kind of quite sadistic, so it does make it somewhat uncomfortable viewing. But let's talk about what doesn't work. Now, just to address something that I've mentioned, I thought whilst the acting is strong, the characters are written quite poorly, because the situations that they are in simply do not reflect what a real human would be doing in these situations. So I think the actors are doing the best job that they can with the script that they have, but I think some people may kind of look at it and think, oh, it's bad acting, but it's not. It's just the way the characters are written that is kind of making them seem like complete dummies. For example, we have this kind of this knock at the door, and there's this masked guy with all kind of like blood and all that over his face. And if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you get some crazy guy with a mask knocking on your door, you don't just go, oh, it's probably just some kids messing around, let's go to bed. It's just silly. And for example, another kind of, again, I don't want to go loads of spoilers and stuff, but they of course they can't find their mobile phone. They think they're going to be in the car. And so he kind of leaves his wife in the car, in the house, to go look for a phone. Why not just take the keys and try and drive? It's just, there's just like silly things, very kind of basic things that are simply there to draw out the plot. One thing that really infuriated me, I'm going to say another one, is that initially the husband doesn't, but the wife sees this masked guy first. And he initially doesn't believe the wife, thinks because she's upset, she's seeing things. Fair enough, right? That one I'll give him. But after he sees this guy in a mask, she says a little bit later on, she sees a second guy, but he still doesn't believe her. I mean, he has seen a masked intruder for himself at this point. Why would you not believe your wife that there's a second intruder? Silly, silly. So that's the kind of the way the characters are written, kind of like how they interact with kind of certain situations. The other thing, and again, this is, I guess, sort of partially down to the kind of the writing and the kind of the direction of the movie. It takes so long to get going. The first half of this movie is this couple, you know, dealing with this to themselves and kind of dealing with the loss of this child, this miscarriage. But it has these weird tonal shifts where one minute they seem kind of quite happy, the next minute they kind of seem like they're at each other's throats and they're estranged. It's this weird sort of tonal shifts that aren't really explained, and it just goes on forever. And there's virtually no dialogue in the kind of the first half of the movie. It's just these kind of like these two characters, you know, having this kind of this weird interaction. Also, there's a prologue where we have this this woman sort of seeing an intruder in her dreams. What's that about? You know, it doesn't. Again, it's hinted that there's some type of supernatural. I mean, it's not. These are just people who have broken into the house, but like we're led to believe that there's some type of supernatural presence. Now, the intro by itself, if you look at that as a kind of a microcosm by itself, is actually quite effective. That scene where we have an intruder who is potentially in this kind of hotel room works quite well, but in the context of the film, it doesn't make any sense. Why is the character? Why is this? And it ends up being a dream. You know, it's the first thing of the movie, but why is she dreaming about intruders, masked intruders at this point? It doesn't make any sense, to be honest with you. And there is also hints that there are supernatural things afoot. For example, birds keep sort of flying into the house, things like that, and it just doesn't make sense. You know, you're talking about home invasions and things like this, and it's just what, you know. So the other thing, I guess, as well to point out is the kind of the epilogue of this movie, the kind of the end of this film is a little bit unsatisfying. We don't really know anything about these kind of intruders, and that we're given kind of vague kind of like. Because we end up being, there may be more than two, and we kind of giving a little bit of dialogue about some mumbled stuff. Again, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but again, it's not enough. It's not enough to make sense of any type of motivation. And it's, as I said, although it's implied some pretty graphic violence, gorehounds are going to be disappointed here because there's not a lot on screen. So overall, this movie is not a lot to recommend outside of some okay performances and an interesting kind of prologue that I feel would have been better as, I mean, maybe that was a short on its own, but as a kind of a movie, as part of the film, it doesn't make any sense. I feel that this movie has the idea of a short stretched out into a feature, and it needed to have more going on, unfortunately. So the director, you know, and kind of co-writer, obviously coming from doing lots of shorts, does not have enough material to make a film, and you know, it's expanded upon in a nonsensical way. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.